right, friends, we are back. It's your favorite podcast show of the week. It's Location Weekly, episode number 695. We're recording on November the 12th. And as you can see, if you're watching the video, Brianna's back.
I'm
Yay.
back. It's
Yeah,
great to
so
be here.
yeah, thanks to Karsten for filling in the last couple of weeks, but we're happy to have you back. So how are you? How you been?
Yes, Karsten, big thank you for covering me. And yeah, I'm doing well. Thank you for giving me a couple weeks. I had some things I had to take care of. So good to be back here and yeah, talking shop as usual, right?
There you go. Yeah. Well, we got four stories to cover off, so let's jump right into it. And I'll let you lead.
Yes, mapping stories. AMAP, which is a map app, and it's operated by the Chinese e-commerce giant Alibaba Group Holding, and it's expanded its coverage now to overseas territories, and it's using China's homegrown Beidou satellite navigation system, which is controlled by the government. And it's touting this as like a world atlas for Chinese people. And so some of the features include things like, if you are using satellites offline navigation, and SOS features, it can detect areas with no network coverage ahead of time. So it can enable those wayfinding paths for you, even when the network goes dark, which I know we've all encountered those moments, right? Um, and it's AMAP's connecting to both the Beidou and Tiantong satellites, so users can share their location, communicate those in real time. It's using spatiotemporal computing models, It's also has something really cool that's like recommending the best lane for your route in real time. And the simulation is very much like a video game that you might play at the arcade. Like those driving games that are really fun. It kind of looks like that, right? So it is bringing it to life. It's giving that 3D map feature, giving the driving efficiency, and really they're trying to help make travel planning super easy. So the some of the other things that are supported are I mentioned the lane and network coverage, bringing location accuracy down to within 1 meter. High quality positioning data from Beidou is giving those real-time traffic analysis, and then some sophisticated modeling techniques that can predict complex traffic flows. One of the examples that I liked that this article talked about was that they collaborated with, I'm probably going to butcher the city's name, Hangzhou's traffic police. So the system identified the city's 50 most like congested and kind of craziest chaotic intersections. And then they analyzed these congestion incidences, the queue times, like the stop counts and all of this. And then they offered these comprehensive solutions to optimize the traffic flow, the light timing, adjust the variable lanes, help direct police efforts where needed. And so as a result, all of these many of these intersections that were once rated as severely congested have seen significant upgrades now in the ratings of congestion, I guess. So really cool like application, just bringing it down to like day-to-day stuff that you and I deal with as you're hitting into traffic. So I think this is an excellent application of, we think about like these features being used perhaps for self-driving cars, and I think all that stuff's really important and good, but like just in day-to-day life, how can we be smarter with how we plan and drive, plan our cities, plan our road systems, time the lights. Sometimes I mean, I get to a light and I'm like, who planned this? Like nobody is ever at this light, and I always have a red light here, right? So I think this is like great day-to-day application. So yeah, I think some things maybe the US could learn from. I don't know.
Yeah, 100%. I won't add a lot to it, but yeah, I mean, just looking at the imagery that they've shared in this announcement, and like the lane level navigation's insane. Like just the how you see it flow like from one lane to another, like it's incredible. I think it's pretty interesting. And then I think these sort of 3D, three-dimensional views of the cityscapes, and kind of like looking at heat maps of, where congestion is and all of that. I think it's incredible actually. Like it's nothing like I've never seen anything like it. Like obviously Google's not doing this in their maps or Waze or anybody like that. Like it's pretty sophisticated visually and obviously using a lot of AI to kind of power this, but I think it's super interesting. And like they've got things in here like what they're calling a mini radar feature showing nearby restaurants and entertainment shops. You can filter by walking distance. You can filter, by, what's busy right now or not. Like there's all these different things that are built into it. So I think it's good for both, obviously pedestrian traffic as well as, vehicular traffic, and with a ton of features in here. So amazing. Yeah, a lot to learn in terms of what we can bring to North American mapping. Very interesting. Okay, moving over to our second story now. This is a company we haven't talked about for a while, a long time, part of the LBMA community, Bliss. So Bliss is, I don't know, been around for many, many years in the location data world and have this big sort of, geo-powered advertising stack of solutions. And they've announced an exclusive partnership with O2, specifically their Motion Brand Elevator division. And so this is Virgin Media's O2 business division. And it's interesting. So what they're doing here is they're taking the audience data, the device level data from O2's network, being one of the big mobile operators over there in the UK, and using this to strengthen their audience planning and measurement capabilities, their targeting offering in the UK. I think for me, what's interesting is that this is an exclusive partnership between Bliss and O2, or Virgin Media's O2 division here. And normally you see companies that want to license data, or obviously want to sell that to as many people as they can. So I think it's interesting here that they've kind of teamed up and said, yeah, no, we want to work exclusively together on this. But I think from a power perspective, in terms of what you can do with this, having not just app level data like we talk about all the time, but having cell tower data, as a way to collect anonymize and aggregated data, and then using that for enabling advertisers to craft and target precise messaging, is something that can work very, very effectively, and especially in today's state of privacy issues when it comes to app SDK based data, I think becomes even more interesting. And they also have in their Bliss Audience Explorer platform, they've got other data, spend data, MasterCard data, other things that you can kind of combine this with to have a more holistic picture of the behavior of those consumers. So I think a very interesting and strong partnership, and just surprised at the exclusivity, but I like it.
Yeah, I'm curious. I'm going to assume that it's like 6 months exclusivity or something. Like it's temporal. Is my guess. Like, what business person in their right mind would be like, yes, forever.
Right.
It's good to see that these types of partnerships and this type of, audience context and prioritization is still taking place today. So, let's talk about some people who maybe didn't do that so good. AT&T, T-Mobile, and Verizon have decided that they are going to come together and contest these FCC fines that they have received. So if you have been living under a rock, the FCC has really just been like dropping the hammer on like lots of companies that are, collecting location data, utilizing privacy data, privacy sensitivity data, location being included in that. And so they've been, getting all of these fines from these regulatory authorities for saying that is due to consent not being taken from consumers when sharing sensitive information, specifically location data, right? So now they're going to be contesting this. And in April, the FCC said, like, okay, here's these heavy fines for sharing customer location data with third parties without users' consent. So now they're arguing, these three telecommunication providers, that these programs were related to location-based services that they went through some vigorous vetting processes, and without customer consent, the data couldn't even be used. The data was available for services like emergency response and fraud prevention. So the FCC started this investigation, um, and it discovered that there was issues with a service called Securus, and or Securus, I don't know. And so, many of these that had been accessing this sensitive information. So 5 years after this, that's when the FCC fined Verizon around 47 million, while the telecommunications service providers discontinued being a part of that location-based service program altogether. So now these companies are saying like the FCC has exceeded its regulatory authorities and legal principles, like, that they're kind of just going like above and beyond what really should be happening. So let's see. This is just kind of like, hey, this is happening, one to watch. I think I have like mixed feelings about this because I do feel strongly that there was misuse of this information, right? Like, do I think anybody really got hurt from it and it was just to drive up revenue for advertising purposes? Yes. I don't think that it was necessarily detrimental, or it's not like they were saying that people were in sensitive areas that had to do with like religion or reproductive rights or anything like that, right? So here we are. It's like, what's going on? Let's just pay attention and see what happens. But find it interesting. It's interesting to see, like, these big companies have the funds and the legal backbones to go after this. We have a lot of friends that are smaller companies that maybe just don't want to fight that fight. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. So I mean, it's interesting. Kind of the fines vary, right? Like AT&T, I think was like it's 100 million or something that they got fined, and T-Mobile was like 80 or something. And then there's like for parts of it, and it's not like one fine. Like there's multiple sets of fines that have been issued by the FCC for different violations. I know there was one where they were fined. T-Mobile was fined like 80 million, and then they settled for like 32 million or something like that. So at the end of the day, as you say, these are big companies, and they can work around these things and continue to operate. But a lot of our friends that are running smaller data companies, you can't really deal with it at that level. So it's a challenge. But I think the message here is, no matter whether you're big or small in this space, is how do we continue to make sure that we're transparent in what we're doing with this data and getting the proper consents from the consumers that this data is being collected from. And if you're reselling that data, that you're doing it in a completely transparent way in terms of what's being sold, what information's being transferred, all that type of stuff, and how is that being retained or destroyed, and those kinds of things, right? So it's all about transparency. I mean, there's tons of value in the data, as we all know, and it's changing its shape and form all the time. But transparency is the name of the game.
All right.
All right, final story. So we're going to jump over back to the UK now, and there's a company over there called iMedia, which is in the out-of-home space, and they are running a system now that uses license plate recognition to target ads to specific drivers. But whereas we've seen this a lot on billboard highways and things like that, on where you've got these billboards on the edge of roads or highways that are kind of scanning license plates of cars coming up, and then delivering a real-time change to the ad so that it's something relevant based on that. This is happening at gas stations or service stations in Britain, and so what's I think different about this, or what's interesting about this in the UK and in Sweden and the Netherlands, the governments allow private companies like this to access the public license plate databases through open data initiatives. So this isn't the case, in the US or in Canada, for that matter, where we are. But in some countries, obviously, Britain being or UK being one of those, this is something that they allow. So what you're seeing here is companies like iMedia building services on top of this. And I think for me, I like the fact that they're going after the service station market because you have cars sitting there, they're there to be refueled. You can pick up the license plate. Obviously, while they're there, there's a high amount of dwell time. And, while people are sitting there pumping gas, the same as we have with things like gas station TV, there's a captive audience that you can influence with this. I think what I didn't get from the story, I mean, I love that they're using that license plate recognition technology to do this, is the type of content that they're delivering on these things. Is it only car company ads that they're trying to sell you like your next car? Are CPGs taking advantage of this? I know when we've talked recently about, some of the new partnerships that Gas Station TV was doing here in North America, they were doing partnerships with TikTok and trying to bring influencers to the table. And we've covered that recently. So I think there's a lot of potential in this. I love that they're in that market at these service stations with high dwell time. So I think it makes a lot of sense. And, I kind of, wish that other countries, were more open to this, because I think that there's nothing personally identifiable here. We're talking about anonymized data again. And I think you have a lot that you can kind of infer from that, that you can deliver a relevant ad.
Yeah, I mean, I
Over to
think
you.
it's interesting. I feel like, for us, at least for me, it sounds like a strange way to go about it. And it's almost comical that they're like, you cannot use IP address, but you can use your car. Like,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so wild to me. So that's really my only comment is like, I
Well,
it's
yeah,
like
and
what changes
also,
more often, your IP address or your car? Probably your IP
well,
address.
probably, yeah, but also that that the UK is one of the jurisdictions that allows this public access
Yeah,
to this data, when they are one of the key proponents of GDPR also.
yeah.
So yeah, that part is kind of, doesn't quite
It's
sync
so
up, but
strange. But if
yeah,
it's effective and anonymous and aggregated data,
yeah,
go.
then hey, let's go for it. So
All
that's
right.
our show for this week. You've been listening and watching episode number 695 of Location Weekly. We, of course, thank you for your time. If you have story ideas, please reach out. If you have feedback, we'd love to hear about that too. If you want to get involved in the LBMA and become a member company, we would love to have a discussion about that as well. And there's, lots of things yet to happen. I know Karsten is over at Web Summit this week in Lisbon, and we are hosting an LBMA meetup over there. So if you happen to hear this and you're there, then just reach out to myself or Karsten on LinkedIn, and we'd be happy to host you at our little event there at Web Summit. So otherwise, have a great week, everyone, and we'll see you next week with another show. Thanks. Bye.
Bye.